Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Ryzen 9 9900X and 9950X. Now I do need to say straight away from the start, there are a few issues, but there are a few issues that AMD are aware of and investigating, but I have worked my absolute socks off trying to find out if there was a way around this, to try and get some better looking results so I could try and work out what the issue was so that I could basically give you guys at home a fix very early on. But sadly, it does look like it's going to come down to AMD needing to do it. And when I say working up to the wire, it's 11:22 on Wednesday the 14th of August. The NDA for launch of this is 2 PM. So I have 3 hours for me to get this video done, everything sorted on the website, all the socials and stuff. So I've basically just drawn a line in the sand now, and the review is the way the review is. It does mean that we are going to end up having to do more testing. But as I've said, spoken to AMD on the phone just a minute ago, they've said it's definitely a known issue. Everyone's seeing it, they're all thereabouts. So we are going to move forward. It's not all bad news though, because too much in the industry at the moment is all bad news, and this isn't all bad news. It's just gaming isn't. Anyway, we're seeing prices. It's just been updated. The original price that I was given for the 9900X was £429. It's now gone up to £459. Apparently someone at AMD made a calculation issue all along. Who knows? And for your £459, you get 12 cores, 24 threads, and a boost speed up to 5.6 gigahertz. I did see 5.6, but also teetering up to 5.7 with good cooling. So keep that in mind as well. It will still try and push itself that little bit further. With the 9950, you get 16 cores, you get 32 threads. They want 609 of your Great British Beer tokens for it. That price hasn't changed. So the AMD did say someone had a calculation problem where they calculated one wrong and then they calculated one right. But anyway, up to 5.7 gigahertz. I have seen beyond 5.7 gigahertz, but I will talk to you with the gaming results in a minute about in fact we'll just do it now, because this may be part of one of the problems. This screenshot is the 9950X being benched with OCCT. If you go and zoom down to the clock speeds, what you can see is the second CCX isn't boosting as high as the first part of the CCX. So you can see that one of them is definitely performing lower. So there's 2 CCXs, so half the cores are performing better, half the cores are not performing as good. And this could have been part of the problem with the gaming results later. Why is that, I hear you say? Well, technically, when you run things like Cinebench and incredibly high-end stressful stuff, the clock speeds will be lower. As you can see on the left-hand side of the OCCT thing, they're all in the 4s, 4.8, 4.9s, and that's where we would expect them to be when all cores are being stressed. But when they're not being stressed, we would expect a big batch of them to be going up to the 5.7s and 5.9s, and the cores all kind of dance around. But we've not been seeing that. So maybe with the high threaded stuff, it's not really utilising it, or it's not being seen because all of the cores are going to be lower. But with games and stuff where things should be dancing around significantly higher, that's where we might be getting some of the issues from. I don't know. We will just see. It's going to have to pan out. These are just speculations at this minute. But anyway, one of the things is, as I have said, multi-core stuff, it has performed really well. Cinebench R23 is something that AMD specifically spoke about lots when I was away in America, because I got to go away to the AMD Tech Day, and in all the press stuff that they sent us since, it was always Cinebench R23, and if you have a look, there's a good reason for that. It's because it's faster than the 14900K. But if you go to Cinebench R24, it flips the other way around. So Intel are just in front, and AMD just slightly below, but there's not really a great deal between the two. It's just where those colours fall in the graphs that R23 definitely looks better. We've done lots of other results, I will say, that are all available on the website. Go and have a look underneath. Click the link, go to the website. Loads more games, loads more benchmarks. You can go and get a better feel for it there. We just highlight some of them on the video review. Power draw, it was higher than we expected, but better than it could have been. Is probably the best way that I could put it. It's a mixed bag. It pulls less power than the 1300s, it pulls less power than the 1400s, but it's still higher than we would have expected considering the work that AMD did for optimizations. When it comes to games though, one of the things I have now found out, because AMD have said to me when I spoke to them on the phone, is Total Warhammer is definitely one of the games that they know is massively affected. And sadly, this was also the game that I kept going back to and back to and back to and back to try and get better results. I did also do Guardians of the Galaxy and Rift as well, but those results were all fairly consistently the same. But with Total Warhammer, you can see that there's a big difference between the 9950X and the 9700X, for example. I would have hoped in a gaming result that you would have had, with higher clock speeds, the 9950 and definitely the 9900X would have done better against the cheaper 9700X. But as I've said, AMD is saying this is something they're aware of, confirmed it, it is a problem, they are going to be looking at it. What they did say to me was, and this was one of the reasons why it's come down to so late, they did say to me, yeah, all you have to do is do a completely fresh install of Windows. But there is this fix you can do and it will go in and make everything better for you. I spent a lot of time trying to make sure I could find the fix, because I then wanted to show you guys at home how to do it, so that if you were having my problems, I had definitely replicated it. I could walk you through it step by step, and then I could make sure you guys at home would have been okay. I couldn't get it to work. So after many hours of trying to faff, Revo uninstalling this, driver sweeping, like just so much faff, I buckled and I was like, okay, I'll do a fresh install of Windows. What I will say though is AMD wanted me to do a fresh install of Windows for each processor. They were saying because you've had a 96 or a 97 in your system, updating it to the 99 or the 9950 means it won't work correctly. That's what they were saying at the start. So they wanted us to do a fresh install. But then what they also wanted us to do is when we swapped the processor to test the next one, they wanted us to reinstall Windows again. Now, you might think it's a quick thing to just put Windows on, but by the time you've done Windows updates, by the time you've done downloaded your drivers for your graphics card, by the time you've downloaded the motherboard drivers, by the time you've downloaded your games, get them fresh so that you've got all the latest updates and everything on them as well, downloaded all your benchmarks, it's not a few hours. It's an afternoon's work of just sat there making sure you've got everything, get everything set up. So for them to want us to then do a day's worth of testing and then do it again when we change the processor is it's a pain in the bum. But what I did is I did Windows, I did a very basic install, I chucked a few games on it, that was it, done all the drivers, did all expected, and it didn't make any difference. So at that point I'm thinking, well, they've told me this is going to work, so maybe it's my motherboard and maybe it's some weird BIOS thing. So I went and got another X670 motherboard out. Now I was using the MSI Ace, which is what I used to test the other boards with, the other CPUs with. So then I went and got an Aorus Master. I reinstalled a fresh install of Windows on it. I went from scratch and I had exactly the same results. Exactly the same results. So 2 fresh installs of Windows using all the guidelines that AMD had sent. At that point, I kind of got to the point where I thought they were trying to keep me busy, trying to find issues rather than going ahead with reviews and stuff like that. But that was just kind of all in my head. We do need to remember that these processors are later than they should have been, and they've been doing recalls and stuff like that. But I'm going to live in hope that this is a driver problem, because they did keep saying something about a PPI driver or a PPM driver, I think it was, which is basically so that the CCXs can work together better, and it is in the chipset software. So it's basically stuff so that Windows can utilize the processor properly. So that would kind of make sense, that if that's not working properly, gaming results could be off. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that on launch day it wasn't right. On launch day, yes, they definitely should have found this beforehand. Is it disappointing? Yes. But here is a glimmer of hope, because I do want to be the voice of reason, and I do want to stay positive about all of this stuff, because the industry at the moment, with all the negativity and people just taking chunks out of everyone, I don't enjoy it. It's just not nice. But the motherboards are not ready. The X870 motherboards are not ready. I think if you're going to buy a 9900X or a 9950X, you might be looking at building a new system. You might be looking to jump ship from Intel and build a brand new system with AMD. And I would probably say, if you're going to be one of those people, brand new systems, wait for the brand new motherboards. There's nothing wrong with something like the X870 Ace from MSI. This is a cracking motherboard, and you might be able to pick it up cheap later on. But it's just one of those ones, if you're spending so much money, £600, £400 on a processor, by the time then you've been and bought memory and an NVMe drive, it all adds up real quick. Why don't you just wait for the new motherboards, so that we can see what the new stuff looks like, what other people are bringing to the table, new designs, all of that sort of thing. So if you're doing that, they're not coming out until the end of September. So we have a good window now for AMD to get the drivers fixed, and they kind of need to. But it gives them a window to get the drivers fixed. I'm going to pop the Meg back in, and I am going to wait patiently for updates. And the moment there are any, I will get them tested and I will update. But as things stand, effectively, what we have is a pair of processors that are quite good at multi-threaded stuff. It's there with the 1400 to the 14900K. They're as good as that. Might be a bit late to be as good, but they are as good as that. They are very warm. The 9950 specifically, you're going to need to invest heavily in your cooling. I think with this one, I would be investing heavily in my cooling so I could have a quiet life as well. But multi-core performance is there or thereabouts. Gaming, very much hit and miss. Gaming at the moment, I'm going to tell you, if you're just gaming, just go and buy the 9700X, hit Precision Boost Overdrive, save it, and then just not worry about it. Some nice tight timing, 6000 megahertz memory, that's your sweet spot for gaming so far. But we will see if we can have something a little bit more content creatory, photoshoppy, video editing favoured, as well as gaming performance. But at the moment, I'm going to say it's a bit meh, and they know it's meh as well. But I live in hope they can get it fixed quickly. But for now, the whole new big let's hype about AMD launch hasn't got any better. They've actually, when you think about it, been able to make it worse. And I didn't enjoy all the negative backlash about the 96 and the 9700X and people being disappointed. But these, at the moment, there's a lot to be disappointed about.